Hello, friends. It's me, your boy, and your other boy, and we're back. Sorry about the long delay in episodes. I think my original target was to do like one episode a month of like quality education, and if you've seen the educational climate in the United States of America, a full lesson a month is far, far too much. So we had to cut down. So today is going to be my first stream of like a reaction type deal. It's not going to be like a full on, like just reacting to things kind of stream. But I wanted to do something that was like a little bit easier to produce, a little bit more ad hoc and in the moment. And still focus on like the educational and entertainment aspects, and also like maybe gripe a little bit as a treat. We've been very good, so we're gonna gripe. Did you see his head whip around when I said treat? What a good boy. But this is me. So it's a good idea, since y'all are AmpGuard people, if you want to drop your AmpGuard name in the chat so that everybody kind of knows who everyone else is, so that we have like some level of accountability for like our opinions within the group. But I'm gonna go ahead and let this guy get down, and we're gonna do a brief intro, and then we're gonna get started. Also, this is my first time working with some specific tooling, so I'm sure there's gonna be some mishaps, but we'll see how that goes. Hello Noodles, hello Kenty, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Kenty's a longtime fan. Ursius, we got Lennial around. Thanks for dropping by. So I went to the it was the Crystal Groves Weapon Master. It was March 9th, 2025, just for like chronology's sake. So this is my first tournament back in about 3 years. I had some like serious knee trouble when I tried to come back in 2021, and I also had some post-COVID trauma, like who didn't, right? That I didn't manage very well. So I took like probably a full year and a half off, which I regret. Never take time off away from athletic endeavors. Your niece will hate you for it. So I've been training hard again since about like May last year. So the tournament was in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, in this like, and if you know anything about like Western and South Central like Pennsylvania, the buildings are very old and they're very cramped together, and it's got like kind of a specific like almost grungy aesthetic to it. And it was just really fun. It reminded me of like when we used to practice in my home park in Somerset, out of a friend's like mechanic shop. The tournament was indoors, which we'll get into when we start watching some video. But yeah, it was fun. It had a good atmosphere. I've been fighting indoors all year, or not all year, but all winter, so that was good. It was good practice. So the rules of the tournament, it was Warlord style with pits. I don't think we're going to spend too much time on like the actual pits. We're going to be looking at pools for the most part. I believe it's a 15-minute pool. I think it was 15. It felt like 30 minutes, but I think it was 15. It might have been 10. I might be stretching, but I believe it was 15. And if you streak 10 wins, you got an auto qual, which means you were automatically seeded. So you get 5-3-1 points for placement, and you get 0.5 for qualing into the bracket. So placements were Inox at first with 14.5, and then I got second place. Single was 15, and they dropped it down to 10. That explains some things. I don't know. They all felt the same length to me, I guess, because I was just anxious for my first one back, but it explains why single sword felt so damn hard. So I had 13.5 points. I qualified into single sword with the highest score. Then I lost hilariously to the same stab twice in a row from Zeldin. I think my adrenaline was just through the goddamn roof. I felt like physically okay, but I was just super, super amped up and going like way too fast. Single sword, especially as a shorter person, is kind of like a patient counter game a lot of the time, and I was just having none of that. I flew in on the dude. He stabbed me twice. I felt like a newbie. I grit my teeth. I wrote down really shaky notes in my fighting journal. So I think that specifically is just like a time in kind of thing and a time away kind of thing, where your body kind of like learns to withstand that initial huge burst of adrenaline and then like your body, after a couple of tournaments, your body's just like, okay, like this is fine, this isn't gonna kill me, and you kind of just get used to it. But I think if you stop, you're gonna have that huge burst of adrenaline for that first round. I leveled off and felt fine. I got first place in Florentine and board. Florentine, I had the highest kill count. Board, I qualified out in 10 first, so I was the number 1 seed for that. And then I got second place in open, where I did not qual out. I believe Toby qualified out first, and then I had the highest number of kills after that. So I didn't want to play in Great Weapon. We'll go over that when we look at the actual Great Weapon videos. And then Toby got third with 9.5. We talked a little bit about the venue already. So here's my perspective. The goal of this is entertainment and education. It's primarily to improve myself in a couple of capacities, right? So I want to practice doing some streams that are just like ad hoc, interacting with the chat, so your participation is welcome and appreciated. My last couple of wax streams were mostly like planned classes, which is like, hey, I've got a bachelor's in education, like that's no problem to do that, and you stop and interact with chat some of the time. But I watched these videos, but I didn't plan out what I'm going to say. I'm just going to kind of wing it and go through it to just practice thinking on my feet while I'm streaming a little bit. In addition to that, analyzing footage is just a really good way of improving your fighting in general. And I want to look at the things that I did and the mistakes that I made. And the maybe things that I think that other fighters could improve, or even just like comments on what they're doing and what certain like body positions and strategies mean. So that's kind of my goal for this. So if you're like featured in the video and you're getting critiqued, like it's all love. We might have like a little bit of laughs, but everybody loves that you're here if you're trying hard. So please don't take any of the critiques as like, I think you're bad. This is more of just an intellectual exercise on like, what do different strategies mean? What do we do against them? How can we improve? Things I'd like to see, that kind of thing. So there's going to be, we're going to be addressing some cheating here. And we are going to be, I'm going to try to strictly stick to the factual elements of it and what you are supposed to do about those situations. I may express some level of assault. I'm going to ask you guys, like, there are people that care about the people that miss the shots. They're probably in this chat. So be kind. If you feel like really frustrated by something you see, I encourage you to like, be polite about it. If you can't be polite about it, type out woof. Use the mang rage emoji or something. Just don't make me edit the video, because I want to chop this up for YouTube to kind of keep that content growing and just make it into an educational series that people can reference and improve upon items. So just be respectful. There are mods. Don't make them work on the weekend. It's super rude. So, and in regards to like the shot taking, I mostly want to spend my time about resolution and detection strategies, and also about advocacy strategies. So that's my main goal there. I may be a little fussy, but I did get second, so I'm entitled to a small amount of salt. The salt is the part of cooking where like you don't want too much, but you need a little bit. So you gotta let me cook. Without further ado, let's get started. So I've got a program on called Zoom It. Let me just show you this. This is really fun. You may see me mess with this program a little bit, but I can do things like, if Zeldin is looking really powerful here, I can draw like really cool flaming key auras like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. I can switch the colors and do like bolts of blue lightning because he's clearly Super Saiyan 2. But I might mess up some of the buttons. It's a little bit difficult to operate. You can like zoom in on things just so you can see like if we're trying to get a zoom in of these guys in the back. So if you want like a zoom or something highlighted, just try to ask for it in the chat. Now I'll do my best. So I'm still learning that program, so it might be a little bit stilted, but I think it's going to make this analysis fun. So we're going to run this video. Let me know about the audio balance in the chat if you need things to rebalance. So this is Zeldin, and I believe that this is Trent from Just a Geist. I don't know where Trent is from, but Zeldin's from Angler's Rift and was originally from Golden Vale, I believe, and is the one who rudely and unnecessarily stabbed me twice in a row out of single sword, the first tournament, first bracket back, and he maliciously stabbed me twice like a pooper. I can't believe you did that to me. Anyway, back to work. Okay, so Trent's from Windhaven. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, he's got to stop. He's got to be stopped. We're going to try to look at why that happens a little bit. I have some theories, but let's go ahead and play some video. So this is like this is the best view of the church, but this is like a carpeted turf. And in these tournaments, you can see, let's see here if I can, you can see there are these soft boundaries, these blue lines, which I believe is about right here, right? So I think this is when they're starting. It's right here. So just so you know about the soft boundaries. There we go, stab. Some discussion. I'm not going to be able to track the discussion because you can see the quality of the captions. It's just, the sound's not good enough. So, it looks like they're discussing the leg. Looks like he couldn't, the Reeve in the back couldn't hear in the venue either. So, just doing it again. I think that's doing it again. I'm not going to worry about this score. Just the motions. Let's go back and look at that fight again. All right, so number one that I want to call out. So this is like a classic Golden Vale stance. From, I don't know if they still do it too terribly much. There's actually two places that use this kind of stances, and they use this in different ways. So Zeldin's got this real far forward lean like this, where center of balance is kind of like down this way. So he's like, his body's pulling in a straight line, like down over his leg right here, right? So this does a couple of things. This does, I feel like this is a fine position to use occasionally and as a surprise, but as a base position, I would not do this. And you can also see that Trent is kind of doing it too. And the position that they both got is like almost like there's like an imaginary, let's see if I can do, there's my team. It's like there's like a shield, imaginary shields in these hands, but they're not, right? It's just like, it's just their hand. And I think you find it interesting that like this is a fine position for a handguard, like it's at the ready. And this position here is like where a shield would go. And his foot orientation is like the way that a shield, with the way that you would stand if you were holding a shield still. So it looks like there's a change in like how, since he's still going sword foot forward, there's a change in how he's going to approach this fight without like a shield. But this stance is like, hey, like, okay, how do I fight? Well, how do I stand when I have a sword and shield? Okay, and the shield's gone. I'm not going to change anything. So I think it would be a lot wiser to try to emphasize his reach by having this foot out around and forward like that, right? So that's the main thing. You can start in this position, but it's usually a bait for you to like switch this foot forward again. So we're starting this position, and the other thing that this does really well, that I watched a lot of this tape to try to figure out, is this really cocks his hand back here for a stab. And you will see him stab in the next 3 fights, like the same 2 fights where he maliciously stabbed me out of the first round of the bracket, right? So I think there's nothing wrong with holding this position or using this position. I think that I would make this like an accessory position and use a more neutral stance as a base position, because this tells me like, hey, I want to come forward. And this weekend I learned that like this is a great position to stab people from, right? And also like this also makes it a little bit harder to move offline since all of his weight is down over the front foot. This means that he could kind of move backwards fairly well. but he's going to have to push a lot of weights off of this foot. And since he's got so much weight on this front foot already and is already so low, taking a step forward like this is going to be kind of hard from this position. So this is like I'm going to maximize my reach and kind of hope for the best. And then the last part that I want to note about this position that makes it kind of difficult, and I don't think that this is why Zeldin uses this position specifically. I do know that this is why certain people use this position. It's important to think about, like, where is his head in space here, right? So his head, yeah, it's like a sprinter starting stance almost. It lengthens your reach, it lowers your center of gravity, it makes you hard to throw down at. But one interesting effect of this is it kind of wields your head like a center grip shield because it's right in the middle of space. So this isn't something that Zeldin does, but you have to be careful when you're using this stance because if you move laterally like this and get bonked in the head, on some level, you're kind of already wielding your head. I would be unsurprised if you got hit in the head after you changed positions laterally. I would be unsurprised if a Reeve kind of ruled that head blocking. So you need to be careful with that. Anyway, let's look at the strategies, right? So what we're expecting from this position is mostly like stabs and stuff. Now there's a stab, and then a second stab, and then some adjudication. And we see like Trent kind of approached, and Zeldin was kind of unable to back off because he's got all of this weight over his foot. And you don't need to back off if you're going to stab, right? But that first stab didn't pan out, so the next option was kind of to just stab again. So it's just important to be aware of like the limitation of those kinds of stances, where it's like the only thing he's got is kind of like reach forward there. Discussion. I think we got a T-pose lean there. Let's get the sound back, the speed back to normal. Looked like he swept that. So stabs are kind of all or nothing thing to do. So like they're good. They're a good tactic if you're really sure that your opponent's going to approach you really hard. But we don't want to like overcommit to that. And you can see the next strategy was a chop. Like, hey, my stabs aren't working. I'm going to chop. The only thing I can do is stab again because I'm in this position. So if I was Zeldin, I would think about straightening up a little bit higher to try to get like a more mobile stance. You can also see how wide his feet are apart from each other too. Like this just isn't a stance that you can move from. You need your feet closer together to be able to move laterally or back very quickly. Some good calls. Okay, good call there. We're chopping. Same stab. Hey Rain, how you doing, buddy? Same stabbing him. So last stabbing. I think we got the themes of this fight at this point. So, I think shot variety would be a big help. I think narrowing up that stance and straightening it up would be a big help for Zeldin. And I think for Trent, I think he needs like a single sword stance that's just not a sword and board stance. Because it seems like the strategy there is to kind of just close in and fight like he has a shield, but he doesn't have the shield, right? So that would be my suggestion there. I don't remember. There's no demarcation of like what round this is. I believe this is definitely in bracket, but I think that's my take on that fight. It was pretty well fought by both guys. Okay, so this is Florentine and with Inox and Rat, and you can kind of see like how interesting the space was. So this was like a church, and they took these chandeliers up top here and kind of like raised them up a little bit. They like chained them together. They were hanging a little bit lower before. It was a neat space. I think this is where this is where they would like preach from, and this is more like a community room. There were some prettier spaces in the back. It's weird to me to have like a church and then have like the flaming phoenix and a burning tree in the background, but I mean, it seems like a super chill church, so that's fine with me. I'm just more used to church-going people being very fragile about those kinds of things, but it seems like they get along. So let's check this one out. Where's my... There we go. So I know in this fight, this Reeve is in the way a little bit, but not all the time. So we need to watch that. The chandeliers give it an odd elegance for an amp guard tournament. Yeah, absolutely. It had a nice aesthetic to it. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, it was just interesting. Should have seen the basement if you didn't. I did not venture very far from the tournament space. Church of the Wacky Bat. Maybe it got repurposed or something. I don't know any history about the place. I didn't really talk to too many people. I just pretty much fought and then left. But I'd be happy to know happy to know the history of the place. And it's like a really cool. I love weird places to fight. Like, it's always been a hobby of mine. One of my favorite places I've ever fought was like outside of a casino, because Anatol's group was running a demo in Santa Fe while I was visiting. So there's like we didn't have the money to play roulettes or slots or anything like that, but the knowledge that we could, and also like mix it up and fight outside, was just super fun. So here we go. So we got a good position here. I think we can start around 15. So I believe Inox won this one because we fought for first in Florentine. So I think I heard that correctly. Let me get the captions up. It sounds like I think Rat said, "Was your shot in time?" And Inox said, "I don't know." I think. You see, the captions got super useful. There's some weird body language in that last one. We'll watch the fights one at a time. All right, so regular fight one. I think it starts about 13 seconds in. All right, so let's do like technical analysis first. So I really am a huge fan. I think it was best of 3 until the last round, and then it was best of 5. I think there may have been an unfilmed fight before this as well. I'm not sure what the scores are. So I like what Rad is doing here a lot. He's changing his position a little bit comfortably. He's hopping around. He's moving laterally. He's basically never letting the opponent settle in. He did that to me a lot too. I'm really a big fan of that. As you can see, lunged in, lunged back. He's kind of safe, so he's moving his feet this way on the outside and kind of just stepping in. He's switching the coordinate system. He was right foot forward for the first part of the fight and then left foot forward for the rest of it. So that's really interesting. Switch back. All right. So where I think Rat went wrong here, technically speaking, was that he kind of just lunged in for a stab. If you watch this, like he's doing a lot of fancy footwork, and then he's just like, all right, good positioning. I'm sick of this. I'm going in. Right, and he tried to kind of counter stab on Inox's approach. So the reason that I don't think that that's like optimal to do is because you saw how Inox kind of just went around into the outside here. He threw like 3 or 4 times around on the outside after he got on top of him. So if you thrust most of the time due to the trajectory of the shot, it doesn't load back into your hand the same way that a slash would, right? So if I slash down like this and my hand is down, well, now my hand is kind of cocked back to at least like rise up and block something. Where if I stab forward, it's harder. It takes a greater degree of force to pull back and kind of parry something. So you lose a couple of frames on that, so to speak. And the other guy's got like 2 swords to mash on you with, and that's about what happened here, right? So I think my Florentine fight is next, and you'll get a bit better of an example of what a person ought to do in these kinds of situations, and we'll talk about it. But mostly what you want to do in Florentine, let's see here. So if I got Mr. Blue here, we got some red swords. So this is like a front view of fighting this guy, right? So if I go straight forward with a stab here, the problem is that both of these swords can come around and hit me, right? So you're kind of going straight down the middle. It seems like kind of an obvious way to fight, and you can stop them with a stab, but a lot of the time it just doesn't stop them, and you're going to get hit in the back and simuled, and you're going to get a reset, which is just not helpful because it doesn't increase your score, right? Like there are times to bail out and try to reset with like an easy shot, but I don't think that Rat was like specifically in that kind of position. What you want to do is you want to take your 2 hands and try to get, it's just like a team fight, you want to get a 2-on-1 on one of these hands, right? So I either want to be, I'm not going to draw a full stick figure because it's going to take a half hour. I either want to be over here or over here. Whoa, what's wrong with that guy? And I want to try to get my 2 swords on both of these guys on one sword, or both of these swords on one sword, like here. So you want to try to get a 2-on-1 where you're engaging with one of their hands with 2 of your hands for a very, very brief window, right? Yeah, too many headshots, right? Flattened his head out. It's a good call. But you don't want to kind of just go down the middle at this dude and try to like make your left hand handle this sword and your right hand handle this sword at the same time. Like unless you're wall-eyed, it's just not a strategy. But what you're looking to do is what Rad is doing on the outside, where he's kind of moving back and forth between these 2 positions. He's moving to the left and the right, but then like he stopped doing that, and Inox just kind of came straight in and he just stabbed for the reset. So what I would have wished Rat had done is move out to the left, out down around this way, or out to the right, around this way, and try to get a 2-on-1 on one of his hands. Because if you look at Inox's posture here, it's not quite as pronounced as Zeldin's, but he does have like a forward posture here. And what that means is a person with a forward posture is probably going to rush in straight towards you, but they're going to have trouble turning and rotating. Whereas Rat's got a nice even posture here that'll make that circling a little bit more necessary. So the other piece of this that I want to address like lightly and not make it the main focus. But we do have like a miss. We have what I think is a missed call here. So if we're gonna keep going, I think it's a little further. I don't remember if this one was super clear or not. I believe it was fairly clear. So it hits right here. Oops. I think it's Control C. Okay. Let's fight with me right now. Right? So I think the thing that tipped me off is like you've got this kind of recoil posture at this point, where I think that looks like it would have been potentially a hit. You can't tell everything from the film because the resolution is not super great. So I'm not going to say that was like 100% a hit, but I want to say I would be like pretty sure. I think I would be about 60%. Then what you would do is a Reeve, and we'll talk about it more later, is when you've got a shot like that you're like 60% sure on, you can file it to kind of address the next couple of exchanges where you think that there may have been another missed call, and you kind of regard though as cumulative. It could be a grace. But the main problem that I have here with this, it's hard to tell from the video because a graze will slide off you, and a stab will stop on you and then slide off on you because you're obviously not going to get impaled, right? But I think the forward posture is a little bit telling here, where we have this bend, and I'm just saying this for like this is what a Reeve should be looking for. Where if you have like a concave posture after the strike, a lot of the times that's a tip that connected because there is some breaking from here. So the next piece is the problem is if this was a graze, if we got back, we shouldn't have multiple other shots occurring afterwards. So what was that? 4. There's like 4 or 5. It's hard to count the noises, but like it shouldn't be like 4 or 5 afterwards, and you should reset and discuss like, hey, I think that was a graze. But there's just like kind of an uncomfortable silence. No one really says anything. We don't say it's a graze. We just move on. I'm not really even sure what was called there, but if there was a graze, it should have been verbally addressed. So that's the other kind of danger of stabbing real early in Florentine. It's like that's a pretty common tactic for people to do to you. And like ideally you should be able to just stab them, but some of the time you can't, right? And if you miss, you're in like a world of trouble and all of your momentum is forward and you can't back off and circle around. Pretty much. Should have circled. What's interesting is like his circling is really good. I think it didn't circle because he wanted to use that stab to stop him. But I wouldn't use a stab like that in Florentine personally. I would circle. Oh my god. So what they're asking is if Inox's left hand is in time. I don't want to make this too much about shot adjudication. So I think there were 2. It's like big stab. He said he didn't know. So the problem is you got to know, right? Or at least make a guess and communicate, and not just leave it up to the Reeves. Like you were running out of space, so you felt compelled to counterattack there. Yeah, so that's smart. Let's look at that. See, we had a couple of instances. It looks like I can't tell if Gold Oramax is in front of the cone, but it looked like you had a little bit more space this way. You can throw shots, and especially like horizontal crosses, to try to move laterally too, to cover yourself, to get a little bit of space. That was something I wanted to talk about too, because your lateral movement was really powerful, and I think it was definitely one of my top worries in the tournament. Let's see here. But with this much space, and you got like a soft boundary, it could be really difficult on people who are like concentrating more on their footwork, because they've got limited space to address those tools, to use that tool to work for you, right? So I think in some ways, like as a person who feels like my expertise is mostly in my hand positioning, I think my footwork is good. I'm also very 39 and not moving super fast anymore. So like that played into my strengths, I believe, a lot, to have like a soft boundary here. Let's go back. So you gotta not run out of space. So he started in the back corner, so that was good. There were some fights, I think, where some of the participants were starting in the middle. They were starting in the middle, and then like the other participant was like already starting in the corner. I think the Reeves were not always resetting those positions to the corners. I think if we had like more of a rigorous process where it was like, hey, go to your corner, that would have saved some of those fights. I don't remember if one of those fights was won, but so my issue with this is like you have to at least hazard a guess as to whether or not you are in time. Like you are the person swinging the sticks. You have to know what they do. And I think leaving it up to the Reeves to discuss is unfair, because like they have to, you're basically putting the responsibility on them to adjudicate like all of the round. And it's just, that doesn't sit super well with me. Like you have to know what happened when you're swinging the swords, or at least you have to make a guess. You have to like deliver your narrative to the Reeves in order to figure out like what's going on and indicate what that is. But I don't know, it's like not my favorite. Like what you would say if you weren't sure is something like, I believe so, or I don't think so, or I'm like 60% sure it was in time, or I'm like 70% sure that it was not in time, if you don't want to give it like a hard answer. But you have to at least try to offer like some kind of information to the Reeves. That was really good. I love the back step here. I feel like you got the movement that we were talking about correct, where you saw that you backed up, you hit that corner, and then you swept that around. I thought that was real good. I don't know if it panned out, but that was like the correct movement. And you got that little turn, and you can see. You see Inox going straight through here and unable to like manage that turn. But I don't understand what the call was here. I think maybe there was like a body that's not in good view on Rat, because we're getting pretty far away from the camera, but I can't tell what that was. But that footwork was good. Rat called head and swung again, which is why he called dead. You don't have to call dead for that. You can. So I thought in the moment I had thrown back after being hit in the head and lost my right of way headshot. He hit you in the interim. You do lose your right of way for that. That's correct. You should stop swinging if you get hit in the head and just take the reset. Especially like from the position of like you have limited room to move around. Like you should probably take the reset on that. I didn't see that you had gotten hit again, but that makes sense. Let me see if I can catch up. That was a good call, though. Very honorable call. Okay. So I think through this, one thing I'd like to see from Rat, I feel like your hands are a little bit low. Like, it's okay to start with them low, but when the action starts happening, they can't stay low. I feel like you want to get them about your shoulder height with your opponent, and you're more like his fist height. And so that left hand came up enough there, but the right hand was still pretty low for this stab. See here. I want to see if that's like a true statement. Well, I think maybe we can't see that. I think there's like not much of a defensive effort from either guy here. And it seems like I get the feeling that like both guys want to swing and like kind of seize the right of way and just kind of get their shots in and hope for the best. When you have someone that you know for sure is going to swing on you, what helps a little bit more is to kind of like pump your hand and try to get them to close on you or attack you first, catch a good block, and then get a riposte or take better positioning from that. Because like it's one of those things where like you have to decide like, is my opponent going to respect my swords or not? And you have to figure like, well, if they're absolutely not going to respect my swords, can I hit them evasively while they're swinging? And that's a situation where you might like swing on them. And I think, Rat, you're agile enough to be able to do that pretty well. I'm not. I got to catch a block from that. But if you're also thinking like, well, they're not going to respect my shots. They're not going to respect my swords. And they're going to try to swing at me no matter what's happening and hope for the best. You can pump your hand to try to catch a block, reposition it, and hit them on the cooldown of one of their swings while you isolate one of their hands at a time like we talked about a little bit ago. But I think that's most of the information from this one. So this is Rat and Toby. I'm going to go back. So I want to do this one next, and then we're going to go back for Rat and Toby. Do not let me forget that. But I want to talk about some of the things that we talked about in the context of this fight, because there are some things that I executed well here, and there are definitely some things that I would have done better in this fight. So I want to offer myself some critique too.
That's right.
I got. So this is me kind of like awkwardly pawing the ground with my feet. I think it was definitely better than staying still. It was about all the agility that I had. But what I was trying to do here was just get into like a linear position like this and then step off left or step off right as he closed. So I'm trying to get him to close by being just a tiny bit closer to him than I maybe ought to be, and then move back and move laterally at the same time and get a snipe. And I believe I got it. So he called arm on that one, which was accurate. So I swept that out with my left hand and got that right hand in. So you kind of work like one hand at a time. Let me see if I got lateral positioning on that, and that's why I got that. Stand back. Yeah, you can see me fade right a tiny bit. I believe this is why this worked. You see me fade right a tiny bit and then hit this arm up here. So step right there. So the little preemptive step right and then back up and hit him with my right hand while covering with my left. And then we just trap the left hand. You get another shot at him. So I think I just get stabbed here. No. So this one, I hate. I hate this fight. I hate how I handled this. This is my perception of what happened. And it's not a great angle. So I am only guessing because I don't remember every single detail. So he got, I think he got an arm here. So I think there was another shoulder here. No, I'm confusing this with the other fight. Let's see that again. This is too many swings. That's why I'm not happy about this. As I was pretty sure that I understood what happened. Shoulder. Okay, so I took the second follow-up, even though I was pretty sure I got this shoulder. I think I got this one too. And I think the shot to the left hip is the next one. Or the left leg. Yeah, I think I caught that with the left hand on that one. I think that you have to understand that this is under a second. That was my assumption. That's not particularly what I'm upset about in this one. I'm upset with my own stuff. Where I'm like... So he had stopped. And I gave him 2 extra. Right? Because he stopped and pulled back. I think I got this right shoulder. I think I got this left shoulder. I did not need 3 arms. Right? I did not need 2 extra arms after getting 2 shoulders. But I wasn't sure what he was going to do. And frankly was kind of surprised that he stopped. My adrenaline was super high. But I will note... when I'm talking about continuing to swing after you've been struck, I'm still alive here, right? So I had too many extra shots, I think, here, but I was still alive when I had thrown them, or at least was indicating as such. They're kind of, yeah, they were extra. The problem isn't that, like, I think the difficulty that I have with this and my frustration with it is, like, it's just that old concept of like taking out insurance where you're throwing a bunch of extra shots, right? But the issue with that is like if the Reeve doesn't agree with me that I've only gotten hit in this specific location that I am indicating, it becomes indiscernible from like continuing to throw after you're dead, and they're kind of like emotionally the same thing, and it makes it harder to adjudicate. So I think what I would have liked to do better is after I was sure that I had gotten this hit, saw that he was stopping a little bit faster, just back up and be safe and throw just enough times. Because, like, if he was going to cheat in this specific round, throwing those extra shots would not have helped. They would have just added another layer of confusion to it. Because, like, I would have been swinging and he would have been swinging. But he did stop on this one. So that was solid. I was appreciative that he stopped here. So I was thinking that he would not stop like in the previous fight. That's a no for myself. I think my adrenaline was really high, and from the video that I watched, I was swinging a lot of extra times really frequently, and it was a lot more than I think I normally would have if I had had like a couple more tournaments under my belt aside from this one. So that's something I want to do a little bit better. I think like technically that was okay. I think what got me that was good on Inox's part, what got my right arm, was he did not charge straight in. He charged kind of at an angle. And I thought that he could do that, right? You saw how he didn't come straight in. He didn't come straight in. He kind of went out in a bow like this, which was good. I think it's probably still not quite as good as like what Rat was doing with his circular motion and circling around people. But it was still good. It's still good angle change, which is like what makes you thrive in Florentine. So let's get the next one. Over here. I think he just stabs me here. Okay, he called Simon, so that was appreciated. Back and forth, little circling. How was that bad? So I was not paying attention to the soft boundary here, and I should have been, because I'm like 2 steps away from the soft boundary, so I need to be more careful than that. Okay, so that was a doozy. I think that one had like some of the same problems as before. So let's look at this again. So this is after the A-frame block where he moves to the left. This is like the critical moment of the fight. Let's get this down here. So this was like way too many extra on my part. I'll give you a breakdown of what I think happened, but we had a breakdown of communication in this fight that I was not proud of. So what I think happened, and you'll have to take my word for it because the angle sucks, right? You're just getting basically my luxurious beauty, which is getting way too wide. I got to cut my calories down. So I'm moving right, which was dumb. I should have been moving left. I cornered myself here. It's not my best work. So he comes in, and I believe I catch this. I think I catch this stab with my right hand, and I sweep up this way, which I believe, if I remember it correctly, was a hit. It may not have been, but it was mostly to just get my hand back into a defensive position. But you'll see that I kind of swept my hand up this way. I believe I also got a shot with my left hand here. So there's that cross that I think was... You'll have to take my word on it. I believed that was a hit at the time. And then we both kind of simultaneously swung at each other. My arm gets hit here. I believe I got this too. I'm not sure. So I'm going to ditch the left hand, the sword. And I believe I've got 2 hits. So I start going at him with my right. There's a leg. So what I don't like about this is we don't communicate after this one. And I didn't communicate properly here. So I'm just going to raise my hand up and say this was my left hand. But what I believe happened was my left hand was gone. He hit my leg. I believe the leg was late. But we didn't have any discussion, right? So I held up my left hand and I just waited. So he just says, okay. He says he's dead. And I just kind of walked off. And then I started sensing that the Reeves were kind of confused. So I turned around and said what I had thought had happened. They didn't confer with the opponent. So I tried to talk for him, which I shouldn't have done. But he had already gone at that point. I think my frustration was that I don't feel that... This is a bit critique, but I don't feel like this fighter tends to be terribly communicative. So there have been some instances where I've been trying to adjudicate shots with him, and I feel like sometimes the strategy, and it is a common one, I've seen it a lot, the strategy can sometimes be, I am going to wait until you say that you're dead, and then I'm just going to say that I'm not dead. And principally, you admitted that you were dead, so you have to abide by the next thing I say, kind of no matter what really makes sense. I'll be frank, as politely as possible. I feel like sometimes the resulting conversation from that just doesn't make any sense. So what I wanted to do was just wait until he gave a narrative for the fight, and I was kind of surprised when he didn't really offer one at that point. So I tried to give mine. I don't think that I liked how that felt to do afterwards. That seemed like the only option that I had at the time. That seemed like kind of a fair one to do. But like, I can see how that would more or less be indistinguishable to someone who is slower from doing like the thing that we've talked about, where you're just swinging continually after you're dead and kind of leaving it up to people's imagination. So I don't know exactly what I would do to deal with that another time. I think part of the decision to swing a bunch of extra times was being in a lower state of conditioning than normal and not being able to back out confidently. So I'm definitely going to work on that. I've got a lot of footwork drills and schedules practiced for myself, but I wasn't a fan of that. I don't like to play that way. That's not my favorite. I'm going to have to reflect on like a better option for handling that situation. I think I might be, I'm torn between like, I need to do the best that I can all the time. And I also feel like I'm within my rights to just wait for the other guy to talk. So I don't really know how to solve that one, but we'll have to meditate on it. Or you guys can suggest something if you want. But that was not my favorite. I did not like how that looked on tape. Let's go back to this one. So we got our boys, Toby and Rat. So we got good side to side here by Rat. I think we just had like an over close here, and Toby took advantage of it. I love his movement. I love Rat's movement. Like, very good flow to it. And there's not like a lot of discernible patterns as far as I can tell. So it's like really exciting to watch. Kind of a simultaneous exchange. I felt like the hands are a little bit low coming in. And maybe reaching a tiny bit too far. It's putting him in a position where it's like hard to guard. It reminds me of Xian too. Okay. Yeah. How to be tall and thin. I think this particular portion of the exchange from Toby, it looks like almost a board kind of thing to do. So I'm gonna swing out wide, and then I think he does like a double, I like that movement on that, but I feel like that's going to. I like the lateral movement. The lateral movement worked good. Looked good, and I think you've got like a shot over the top of the sword and then tried to hit the bottom of the sword, which but the bottom of the arm, it's like a thing where like if you hit a portion of their guard, it'll sometimes freeze in place, and then you can hit them. They think like, oh, I've got a block, and then you hit the same part from another angle. I think that was good. I think what this was missing was Florentine, right? You got two swords. So you want to maybe, if you've got like an idea for like a big play with one of your hands, you want to kind of try to sensitize them to the opposite hand first, so that when you do your big play with one hand, the other hand, that they have to at least like change which hand that they're looking at and accounting for. Because I think that this, if I'm remembering this correctly, it was kind of set up with like a right-handed shot and then top and bottom. So let's go back. Yeah, it's a right-handed shot, and then we're going to see the double, I think. So that if that had been a left-handed chop, and then that cool like double over-under shot, it would have had, I think, a better chance of happening. I think it's also a little bit difficult to throw that one because Rat's position, he's got the side that Toby wants is like offset. So maybe you could like even flip that and throw the over-under with the left hand, and you can create coverage over the arm that's trying to attack with your sword, like kind of like a little roof on that boy, right? So maybe flip that, try to mirror it if your left hand has the coordination for that, and try to use the other hand to at least bring it into the context. But that was a cool attack. I'll probably steal that one. I'm stealing that one. There's no probably. I'm doing it. You can LOL if you want to. It's stolen. In fact, that's my shot now. I invented it. Left throw, then double right with a step throw in there. Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, we're doing shot creation in the chat. I love that. Someone had surgery last week. I guess is the caption. Okay, big right hand swing. Double stuff. I like that name. That's a good one. I don't like it. I don't like the double stuff as a name for that shot so much as that Tato totally invented that by himself without Toby's help. Trademark. That's what the shot's going to be called now. Surgery on a grape. That's the captions for you. Okay. See if I got it. Charlie, the other thing that I'm noticing. I do this with pens. So I think that your guard is kind of like reversed here. There's two guards with Florentine. So I get a quarter every time it's thrown. Yeah, I'll start putting up as much money as my Twitch stream does, which is like 20 cents a month. So I want you guys to pay attention to the way that Toby's swords are kind of crossed. So he's got the right hand over top of the left hand, like this, and he's swinging out around, and that's fine. That's fine. But there's, I think, a slightly better way of doing that. So right hand still over top. Okay. Let's go back. So what I would do, there's two ways of doing this with Florentine. Should have brought swords, but y'all get pens because my swords are in the cart. We got two pens, right? So what Toby's doing, this guy's right hand, that's reverse him. Oh well. This guy's right hand, I'll try to reverse it. Right hand over top like this, right? And he's swinging out around this way with his right hand. So what I would do instead is the reverse, right? Where I would have the right hand in front and then pull it in front and swing this way. And there's two guards where you got the cross this way. And you have to think about it in terms of like what hand that you're using. So if I've got my lead arm down like this and my off hand this way, that's reversed. So lead arm this way, off hand is back up this way. This is the guard. It's like a roof guard or a covered guard. I change the name that I want to call it every week, but let's call it a covered guard for now. So this arm is behind and it covers this forearm so that you can't get hit like vertically, and you jab with the lead hand, right? So what you do when you have it the other way around, where like if my left hand is still technically the lead arm, but I'm trying to point this straighter out in front, but my this foot is still forward. What you do is this hand is for blade beats and binding the sword out of the way. So if you actually like switched which hand is forward, I think that it would work a little bit better. Because like if you're gonna double up with this hand with the over under shot, you could start here, right? Bind the sword out of the way and then over under, and this sword's out of the way, right? So like I think I might do it that way. And you can also if you're gonna double up with this hand, you could also fake a little bit more with this hand and still be able to bring it back like that. It's just a thought. You want to try to play with both positions, like lead sword in front, lead sword behind, and kind of see what they do because they have different purposes. Hopefully that made sense. It's weird to gesture with pens and mirroring. Okay. I'll show you an AR sometime when I'm talking about if that wasn't clear, because that was kind of an ad hoc bit that I noticed. I think like some more, it also looks like you're kind of leaning on your right hand to do the bulk of the work. I think a little bit of time working more on your left hand and making that the main attacking hand will probably do a lot for you too. That was good counter movement by Rad out to the side. Like that, yeah, that's... Yeah, I'm backwards. The mirroring confused me so much. I think maybe a little bit too much forward aggression there is kind of what's getting you stabbed. Does that look like that's still going? That's for third. It must be for third because he's got two. He's got 2-2. Good flow by Rat. Good DA. It's a good fight. I think that's pretty much what I've got there. Probably like more left-handed work. I think maybe you also could have capitalized a little bit more on the soft boundaries and try to close a little bit more. Like work him a little bit back into the corner to try to limit his options because Rad's like super hard to catch but has a huge disadvantage in that area with these soft boundaries. Opening of flow first round. Okay. So the Reeve in the background looked like he had a 2-2. And so I'm like, is this like a finals one? This best of 5? I don't know. I didn't get to fight for third. All right. Honk. That's good. That's a good rep. With the left hand, too. Okay. Good guess by me, then. I think additionally, it looks like it. I know Rat's cardio is pretty good, but it does look like his pace of shuffling side to side and forward to back slows down a little bit. So if you just run the clock on him a little bit, that might give you a little bit more. A little bit. I like. You gotta not do this. I understand that you guys come from a different game, but I really think that you should take the time to not have to do this magic switch because it's like you don't have to an M card, right? Like you can just switch your hand. And I think on some level, I can understand the desire to like keep in practice at this kind of like drop switch that he's doing. Like I understand that, but I feel like if you drop your sword on that, the opponent kind of has like this internal crises of like, well, you're not supposed to do that, but I know he's also from another game and I want to make him feel welcome, so I shouldn't rush him down. So it's either gonna get you killed or it's a free reset, which is like not my favorite, right? So I think putting in the hours to be able to decide or not to decide the magic switch would definitely behoove you. Yeah, we're back. See, that magic switch got him killed that time. I think that's the analysis I've got for this one. It's a relatively... It's a good fight, but... Is this a different one? Yeah, it is. This is different. It's 36 seconds. Let's see what we can get out of this. Solo. I love that faking to get that cross to come out. It's probably too many dark sides in a row. Jolo, you had a couple of successful dark sides, but you need to let the tool cool down a little bit to be able to use it again. You don't want to just mash on like that button. Like the dark side it's really good, but it's also really committal because you have to like wind up to throw it and then unwind to recover from it. So you don't want to like do that too much because all they got to do is like drop it on your body if they see it coming. And it does seem like I would agree with the desire to throw a lot of dark sides because I do feel like Trent is very consistent in wanting to get that high cross or the same side leg and probably isn't mixing it up too much. But he's also kind of covering that with lateral movement, which he's doing pretty well. So you got to at least try to make him not expect that main tool. I'm surprised to hear that Dolo say that Sword and Board is his worst category because I do like the dark side that he's doing. Seems like it's very well honed and very well practiced. I'm surprised, to be honest with you. But he qualled in, so maybe he's not right about that. I mean, he's here. So maybe he's doing better than he thinks. Okay. This is a... I think that was like a hit there. So... I think there we go. That's a good call. I think the main thing here is angle is a variety, right? Because you can see that Trent is cheating his shield over to his sword side, right? He's just leaving it over there because he knows that that's where the shots are coming from. So I think that's a good example for Dolo of like what he can start doing with his shield. But you can see how he's kind of just like moving it this way and holding it there and kind of creating some coverage for himself. So he gets a nice trap, a long trap, block, parry, and you can see it's just crossed over there because like I know the attack's going to come from that side. You could have just wrapped this shoulder. So like one of the things that when people say they're like, hey, I'm really not good at this category, but it's like, it's sword board, right? You're using your main hand. You're not required to like use your offhand except for your shield. A lot of the time when people struggle with that, it can mean something like maybe have like decent timing and decent footwork. So like if they're just kind of putting their stick on the other guy without having to worry about like the shield and stuff, like that makes sense. Maybe they had like a decent base of athleticism and accuracy, and that's fine. But Sword and Board requires that you are able to throw wrap shots, except in some extreme circumstances. You have to be able to throw wrap shots to win in Sword and Board. So being able to confidently throw a wrap shot to this shoulder, you don't even have to wait till it's this open a lot of the time. Especially with the center grip shields, they move more when you fake people because like they have to move their shield more in general, so it's more vulnerable to faking. If you just pump your hand a little bit, a lot of the time you get that flat wrap pretty easily. So if you're like spending time, and I think this is advice for Trent too, because Trent also wants to dominate this quadrant here. Actually, there's a better tool for this. I believe it's control. Trent wants to hit this quadrant and this quadrant, but he's missing this quadrant and this quadrant, right? You can see all the attacks are kind of coming in this spot, or like straight traps down to this leg. So if you got two pieces of equipment, right? So you can block here, and you can block here by just holding your equipment there, right? So if you can't hit these other quadrants confidently, like you're down to basically no options. So what I would suggest to do for both of these guys is learn to throw that shield side shoulder wrap, and learn to throw the shield side, learn to throw money on sword side hip. So like, sorry, this is looking like some John Madden shit here. If you can learn to throw a wrap to this shoulder and a money shot to this hip, now you've got twice as many options. People have twice as many things to look out for. Definitely need to work on my magic switch. Just need to reprogram. Got a lot of rust to knock off, and fighting last week was awesome. Yeah, it's good seeing you out. It's just a thing where it's like, I'm a stickler. It's a basic prep thing for tournaments. Like when you come to a tournament, you really need to make sure that you've like got the right shoes, got the right shield, like got the food, got drinks, like that kind of stuff. Like you got to get all that stuff ready. So I think Magic Switch is kind of like one of those things you would file under. And to be perfectly fair, I think that I would really struggle in a DAG tournament where I was required to Magic Switch or Darkon. So I've never done it on my life. Personally, I think it's dumb. And you guys should write it out of the rules. Like I hate like the realism argument for like, oh well, if I cut your arm off, you would drop your sword, so you should have to get it off the ground. The realism argument is, if I cut your arm off, you would fucking die. You would bleed to death in mere seconds, right? Like, you're definitely not picking that sword back up and prying your cold dead fingers off that sword to hit me. Like, it's not a realism thing. I wish they would just get rid of that. Darkon and Dag both. Like, it's just like, that's not realism. Like, a lot of the ways that you would actually use a sword don't count in these games because it's not fun to do, right? Like, if you have like a missed stab and the blade like scrapes against you like that doesn't count in Amtgard with the sword that would frigging lay you open like ham for Easter dinner, dude. Like that super gross ham that you're tired of eating. It's like way overcooked and cold. It would slice you open, bud. But I don't like the realism arguments. I don't like silly rules. I just like this. I want this to be like nice, polite, sporting, speed tag. I don't want to pretend anything. I deeply resent that I can't just be Mike. I got to be like Tato for the rest of my life. I'm just going to work that one out with my therapist. Skill issue, I make it happen. Reasonable. I think my family just tends to like immolate meat. They just, out of practice, you just want to make sure that the holidays aren't too good so you don't get your expectations up for the rest of the fucking year, I guess. Hope my mom's not watching. Mom's a great cook. Alright, I think we're good. I keep liking this. I need to download these next time and use my own video controls. Right, I think we're good. I think we got some actionable tips for this one. Let's move on. Alright, so this is Dayless. So, Dayless and I fight all the time. He's been training with me for 5 years at our private practice. So we know each other real well. We know what the other person's going to do a lot of the time. Let's see what we can come up with here. I think this is going to have 2 sets. Good circling. Good circling and watching by the Reeves. Kind of a failed money. Okay, that was... I think this was basically just like, straps are made to grind and get close, and punches really aren't. And I think that the gear kind of overpowered him here. So I think he wanted to approach and grind on me because I just didn't want to approach on him. Dallas has a really strong counter-striking style game, so I know that, so I'm not going to throw first. I'm going to wait. I'm going to make him do it. And I think like the interesting thing about that is you get into like this war of attrition kind of deal where it's like, like how do you make the other guy move? How do you wait the other guy out and get impatient? And there's a lot of passive ways to apply pressure. Like you can just like stutter your sword at them. You can step in and step out. And you could, like I don't have unlimited patience. I'm not a very patient man if y'all know me in my personal life. Like you can definitely wait me out. I think you just need to give it a little more time here. And probably not try to get that close into wrap range because just I don't feel like punch shields handle that very well. So that's just coverage and bonks. We got all right. Okay, so this is I want to call this fight out. So we got a dark side here, right? Because Dallas knows that I'm going to dark side him because I know he's going to counter strike me, right? So I'm like, all right, I'll give him a dark side because he's expecting that. But you can see how this kind of shallow, right? I didn't like try to drive in too hard. I went for it, but I wasn't too serious about it. So the next play here would be dark side under shoulder wrap. But he knows that. He knows that that's the next play. So that's not what I do. This Reeve kind of steps in the way, but this ends up being dark side money. So dark side, and then this is going to be dark side. Pause and money. So that's like kind of a situation where I was first seed for this. So Dallas had to fight me in the first round. I'm super familiar with Dallas's fighting, and that could just be like a hard area to break through because like I don't know what the solution would be to this because there's just a lot of like history between us fighting each other, and I think as a person who has like maybe 10, maybe even 15 more years of experience than he does, I'm gonna iterate on that faster. So I think that was kind of like I'm torn between how a person would address that, right? So like we saw in round one, like I let him aggress and just waited, and then he got too close and I wrapped him for it, so he got punished for aggressing. And on round two, I aggressed a little bit more with the dark side and the dark side fake and a money to try to flip that. So like there's just all kinds of those like layers that you add on top of each other that with an experience differential that's like 10 years, it's really hard to address. And there is no like concrete solution to that because that was just like I couldn't have done that to anyone else in the tournament because I don't know them as well as I know Dallas, right? So Dallas has kind of a disadvantage fighting me in that regard. He also like knows my stuff a little bit better too, so you could argue that he has like some advantages compared to other people since we practice together regularly. But it's just like one of those things that you got to think about where it's like you have to think really hard about what the other guy wants and continually deny him that until he makes some kind of mistake. So, but that's obviously much easier said than done. So that was a good fight. Just way to illustrate those layers. I thought that was a very. I felt like that fight had a lot of like information to it. All right, so Curse of the Small Shield here. I think I'm going to worry too much about this fight because it's like this is a situation where you have just equipment that's not really cutting it, which is like fine. It's a good call there. So I think that was 2 shots to the same leg. I think that counts. I think that counts in Darkon as a death if you have a flat blade, which Inox does, but it doesn't count in Amp card. And that's just another one of those things like magic switching where you have to acclimate to the rules that you're fighting under and spend some time doing that carefully. So I think this is Inox's left leg. It's the one that's dead. I got crossed. So I don't know if this is going to be like a solution, but when I see this, right, like I know his left leg is the dead leg, and technically a second shot to the same leg. The second shot to the live leg, which would be this back leg here. So this is the dead leg back here. This is our live leg back here. So I would switch these like that. So I would do, whoops, butts. I don't want to find that again. Okay, right here. Wasn't as bad as I thought. I would switch it so that the live leg is in front and the dead leg is back based on his equipment, because he wants to use his arms are super long, and his shield is like this small punch right here. So what you're looking to get is coverage for this arm while you shoot in here, so you can fight him from longer range and have this punch at least like cover your arm and not let him get close and just kind of like shimmy back and back up. So I think this is in a situation where like trying to use the advantage of the dead leg forward kind of ends up hurting this person, because it lets Toby get closer here. So it's just not the correct tactic, I think, for the time. It's finals, I think. All right, this is. I feel like there's a rigidity to the way Inox fights with a small punch that locks him out of the benefits of the style. Yeah, I think there's like a lot of flow to it, and like setups are a big part of it, and counterattacks and things like that. And it just doesn't seem to work. I'm not like a small punch guy. I know the theory behind it enough to like kill people that have it, but I think that there's definitely something there, Chop. All right, I think this is me and Thresh. I feel like Thresh is a very close match to Footwork for Rats, so these were really fun. We got some circling, and he had that nice in and out steps with his feet. I think. So I think he hit me in the leg there. We're out of frame here, so I'm not gonna kill myself to watch this. So that was a magic switch error, so we're not going to... Wait, Orimax in frame, and then magic switch error, so we're not going to stop on that one. Thanks, cameraman. Thresh, we appreciate you, Thresh. It's probably my most used style, plus flow, plus aerials are the way I play it. Flow and aerials. So I hate myself for getting leg twice in a row, but them's the breaks. I think partially I felt like I had an advantage with my hand coordination over Thresh to a point where I wasn't so concerned about it. But it was being lazy here and should not be lazy on principle. Okay, let's go back. Go back. That's really fast. So can we call out? Let's go back. I just want to call out how fucking sick Thresh's footwork is here. So you're gonna leg me. Bonk. Tato goes down like a fool again for the second time in a row. I'm like the character from Memento, right? Where I just like wake up on my knees and I'm like, we're here again. How did we get here? Or like starting at the beginning of the episode, you're probably wondering how I got here, legged again. And then the audience is like, no one is wondering that, Tato. We know how you got in the leg. You got lazy. You see that? So sick. That was like, go back. So I think it's right here. It's like left step, right step, left step, right step, big pivot. It was sick. It's like jump back, right step, big left shuffle. He's gonna go right. You're gonna go left again, then big right. Good footwork there. So I watched this carefully because I was worried about this shot. It looks like he hits me in this foot back here. I was super relieved to see that was on tape. Now we're gonna send here. This might be a little slow. Big left step. He's going to go right. Left again. And he's going to do a massive right push. He set it. Back on the leg. Back on the foot. But he got like from this side 180 degrees around me in like a second. I have to revisit the dark side conversation, but I feel like you could have snuck in a dark side on that movement pattern. It would have been deadly. Yeah, I think that's my critique. But let's appreciate the sickness of this first. This is like this move. I would say is just sick enough for RFK's control over the health agencies. Now, like this is fucking sick. Bunch of mashing from me. He's gonna pivot left and then pivot the whole way around. That's really good. I love that. It's sick. I think my main critique for Thresh is shot variety because like all of this were basically crosses. It was about the same thing that we saw from Trent, where like we're hitting this quadrant and this quadrant, but we don't have access to here or here, right? And then like you gotta understand, like dark sides are good, but dark sides still go here too, right? With the crosses. So that would have been cool too. And I think dark side is a good thing to like try to learn to do, since especially like I think Dagger here is kind of famous for having like a lot of high cross counters and things like that. So it's a good trick shot. But I feel like we definitely need more capability to throw like good shoulder reps. It looked like he almost got one over, but my shoe was like on my back like this. I'm talking about like a flat wrap from long range is probably complement your game plan really well. There's good movement on that though. I also like the contrast between Thresh's footwork and Rat's footwork, where like Thresh is using that footwork super frigging aggressively and on the inside. Rat is using that footwork on the outside to make it confusing. Rat, I think if you borrowed some of this kind of movement to the extent that you can, I think you're a little heavier than Thresh if I'm like reading people's body sizes correctly. But I think adding that kind of circular movement to your game would be super sick. Like I think that's achievable for you, Rat, and would like really work well for you on board. No problem. Thanks for coming to stream. He stayed moving while getting hit on a bunch too, to add something positive. Most people can't move and get hit on block. Yeah, absolutely. I struggle with that. Like, that's really telling of good footwork to be able to, like, catch blocks and keep moving. That's good stuff. I think this was probably the hardest match of the tournament. Just with that sub. I think that was we simuled, and I was thanking God that we did because he killed me. Or no. This was where I made an error. I thought that we simuled, but what I didn't realize is I had hit. I remember this now. I had hit this leg 2 times and he won this round. But because he like crossed his feet over and I just wasn't looking at his feet while I threw at them. So I think that was like a good example of like the fighters just working it out. And like, I didn't get what I wanted, but I trusted and believed the guy. And he gave me like a good explanation for it. And it was just fine, right? The Reeve did not have to intervene. I was happy to take that loss as long as it was like made clear what happened. That's just a good dark side. He just read what he wanted there. Let's check again to see if there's anything deeper there. So we got some circling. I think I did that. I think there's a juke here. I'm trying to decide if I did that on reaction or if I planned that out. I don't remember. If that was planned, a plan B, that was like a microscopic bait. Let's see here. They're little. Okay, he just called dead on that. Well, I like incompetently searched for his second target. I'm like, shoulder wrap. No. Leg. No, wait. It's not my favorite. Glad I got him on the first one because I looked like an idiot hunting for that next shot. All right. I think that's 1-1. Am I allowed to suggest a 10% option here? There's a huge spin angle. I'm sure. That was definitely an ooh piece of candy moment. Clip left leg and then hit the dark side. Okay. That makes sense. What's this? I need to download these videos because rewinding once it gets past this say something block behind me is really difficult. Spring allergies, that's not COVID cough. The full backspin shot to the side, you hit 1 out of 10, it's an instant win. No spinning, especially not on me. If you spin on me, I can't turn it into content. There can't be video evidence of me getting spun on. Absolutely not. Banned. What do you think happened to the tape of when Zeldin stabbed me twice with single sword? Fucking deleted. I got in Thresh's camera. I'm like, no one's gonna fucking see this shit. You're gonna like subs are gonna cancel their subscriptions. Man, don't suggest that stuff on stream. Somebody ban that guy, please. Thank you. I feel like I was clear and you're missing my instructions, Mr. Piscod. Okay, so this one, I don't want to deal with this fucking rewinding. This was just a footwork thing. Let's see if we can get where it's like, I got, whoops. Why the fuck is that? Okay, I think that cancels it. That's like a timer. Wrong button. So I got my footwork kind of linear here, right? And the purpose of getting this footwork linear is so that I can take Mr. Right foot and just slide it back this way. So if I'm right, you'll see me hit this linear step, slide a little bit this way, and then hit another linear step this way while I pursue him and just open up the cross angle. I think he crossed a little bit deep. So I think this is what's going to happen here. So watch the feet. Just a good footwork example. I've been working on that type of footwork, so I was happy to see it kind of get me a match in the tournament. I've been spending a lot of time on that. Google Drive. If it's a YouTube video, you can hit the comma. Yeah, it's a Google Drive video. I'm not gonna worry about it too much. That's our match. That was good. I think this was like another video that like I don't know Dayless as well as I know Toby, but like when you get to like a certain level, there's not like a matter of like flaws and things where you can like easily point to and be like, hey, this thing will work better for you, or you need to make this adjustment. Like I think Toby is beyond that phase. I think the only thing that I would suggest is like I've got some years on you, so that's like a little bit extra experience. It seemed like you were very willing to scrap with me when I wanted to scrap. And you didn't really take any defensive measures to like draw me out. Like you didn't step back, which like I appreciate, like a good Dragon Ball Z-esque clash. Like just so we know, like I could see that this aura here was like we're gonna fucking fight, and I detected that, and I was like getting a good estimate of his power level. And I'm like, oh yeah, bud, that's 9,000 plus me, and I'm going in there. But like you can spend like a little bit of time backing up and frustrating me and try to figure out like through my body language, like what do you want me to go for, or what do I want to go for? What do you want me to try to come for so that you can counter it? Like you could have been a little bit more patient there, I think, to try to figure out like what am I looking at. I think you were kind of working a little bit just on pure reaction, which like your pure reaction is like very good. But I think that at higher levels, it's just not enough, and people can get you to react in ways that you don't want to, and you just need to hedge your bets more than that. Because I'm also kind of the reaction guy. Like I've got pretty fast hands and I've drilled really extensively, so that's probably not the place to beat me. I think if you like faded back a little bit more and tried to like draw my plan out of me, that may have gone just a tiny bit better. So I think that's it. Like it's real weak advice. It's just like an experience thing. But there's nothing like quote unquote like wrong here, so to speak. I think beating me is hard. You can try beating like Anatole or somebody. That's just fucking impossible. Absolutely not. Never gonna happen. Good luck. All right. So I'm not a pole expert, so I don't really want to go through these. There's one fight that we're gonna look at, but we're gonna look at it from a reeving perspective. I didn't fight in this one because this is a downhill grade, right? So this goes downhill this way. You can see that the pavement is all cracked up. It's a little bit gravelly, and my consideration was like, you guys are cracking me up. I was worried about slipping and overstretching my knees, which were like starting to get tight by the time this rolled around. So I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna like rehab my knees and like tear my ACL or something like that. So I just didn't play great. I have it great. I'm gonna practice with it. I bought my practice partners a helmet to try to endure my incompetence. So I'm gonna start taking these points because it's just I'm still pretty good. I scored really well in everything that I didn't choke in, like single sword. But I think I'm beyond the point where I can like cash out and take PTO and still win. Where's one fight we're gonna look at? So we're gonna look at this one. So I'm up here, and Toby's up here. This is like the entrance to the place. It's real hard to find. So one of the things that I didn't like about this specifically, so this is not the fault of the tournament organizers. This is the fault of whoever put in the freaking corpora that you have to run Great Weapon or it's not a kingdom level tournament. They're so mad that someone did that because it forced us to fight in a situation that is just like not fucking reasonable, right? So let me look at this. I'm happy that they ran it so that there could be kingdom level awards for this, but that should not be in the corpora. And there's a reason that Great Weapon gets canceled all the time. It should not do that. Bad time to say I was wrong about that. Then I don't know, man. You shouldn't have put that in there if you did. It makes me upset. Let me explain why. So I felt that this was so unsafe that I'm like, I'm not going to do this. But look at this. You got two 10-foot poles, right? And then you got just a few more feet this way and a few more feet this way. And you've got a hard boundary that's like $20,000 pieces of equipment that if you run into it and bend it, you're going to have to pay to fix, right? And the person will get hurt really bad. So if these two dudes charge each other very much in this scenario, you have to go do a reset before they hit the cars. They could get hurt. They could get hurt like really bad, right? So like it's just the fact that the corpora requires this or none of our efforts count really stunk. It really stunk. I mean, and it's not the fault of the tournament organizers. They just wanted, this is the location that they got. They just wanted this to count as a kingdom level tournament. I might have tried if this was on grass. That's what I thought it would be, but I just did not think that this would be safe for me to do with my injuries, and I was just worried about getting hurt. So I think the only other piece of this that I would consider adjusting is this boundary is shaped really small. So we got this space, and this will matter, right? But the direction this way is a lot smaller than this way, right? So there's no room for side-to-side movement either. It used to be. I think it's required now. I don't know. But anyway, so Rad isn't able to circle to be able to deal with any of this, and neither is Inox. They have to kind of go straight at each other. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on this fight, but there are some shot calling issues in this fight, and I want to just take it. I want to preface this with I don't want anybody to say anything nasty to anybody else about this. I don't want there to be any bullying or anything like that. There are people that are friends with the people in here. I don't want to have anybody insulting the Reeves for volunteering their time. So this is, I'm going to do my best to just be like, hey, these are the facts as I see them. This is why this is an issue, and this is what we can do about it, and this is what I would suggest the Reeves and the fighters do differently in the future. So I hope that that's clear. And this could be a hard thing to talk about, I think, a lot of the time, because there's just a lot of notions about this. I also want to address that, I ran by talking about this with a friend, and one of the issues with commenting about this match is this is the match that caused me to get second instead of first, right? So this is I think this is to qualify in for first and second. So this is the semifinal match. But the thing about being biased is not being fair. A fair assumption is I think culturally these games like to try to find any reason to call you biased and disqualify your opinion. And I think that doesn't make sense because if you get first, technically everybody's biased against you because everybody below you got lower placings than you. So that doesn't shield you from the criticism of everybody. That's just not fair. I think we are allowed to talk about this on a factual level, and I think it's important to do so because a lot of people left frustrated this day. It was not just me. Let's check this out. As professionally as possible. If you feel upset, you can type woof. You can use mang rage emojis. Do not say nasty shit. I have moderators in the chat. Now, thanks for your understanding. So we got some interplay, just basic back and forth. See, this is one of the issues with the line being so short is Rat's natural response here was to try to circle, and he just did not have this is almost like fencing with 10-foot poles, right? There's just no opportunity to circle. I don't know that that's necessarily their fault. I think I don't think that's necessarily the fault of the Reeves. But I do feel like if I remember visualizing this correctly, there was space for more, like maybe 10 more feet of field that would have like made this a little bit more equitable and not like so constrained, right? Because like Rad's like locked out of basically using any footwork and has to go straight through this dude, and Inox is locked in the same way, so that we can only take the fighting to like pole arm fundamentals. So I think that was something that I might have just like moved this line back like 10 feet behind this guy, just this far. It would have gone much better. The line right behind the Reeve was a massive dip in the parking lot. Oh, like, yeah, that's not really visible here. Do you mean like here or something? Uneven ground beyond him. Woof. Yeah, so like, I don't think I noticed that. So it's brackets, right? Like it's not that many rounds. If that was the case, they probably should have used the back half of it. I think that this was like flatter, so that was advantageous. Okay. I mean, it's just, I understand this. It's more examples of why you shouldn't be locked into Greatsword when the conditions are like not super safe. Because this was not like, it's not great. Yeah, the gravel was rough too. That's why I didn't play this. But if we could have had like, I think in that case, like instead of making it this small, you might have been able to use the space that was like slightly down the hill. I think uphill and downhill grade might have been like less constricting than having like a fencer's lane worth of area to work with. So that's just my opinion. That's fair, and thanks for bringing that up. Woof. So I want to go back. So we're to say we're a percentage sure that this struck, but you heard that there was a noise there, right? So listen for it. Hopefully it's loud enough for you guys. Listen. You heard that, right? That probably landed. So that's one. Sometimes it can be hard to see that, and like everybody gets one, right? As it was quite likely a hit. I don't like to say things that were like absolutely or definitely a hit. That I feel like that's quite likely. And again, like it's okay. It's okay to miss some. I'm going to say quite likely, and let's make sure we be polite about this. So I want to say that this one, somewhat less likely a hit, but I want to call out something that would make me start thinking as a Reeve that I would try to look for. So watch, right? So I think this is a shot to the right arm, potentially, right? And it's on the opposite side of this Reeve. It's probably within view of this Reeve, maybe. And it's not as decisive as the previous one, but there's a specific action that I want to call out. So check it. We're moving. Now watch. So you're taking the hand off the pole. I'm going to take it back up to normal speed. Watch how slowly the offhand comes back to the pole, right? The pole that's back here. And you don't have to agree with me on this take, but this is just things that I'm looking at that would get me thinking as a Reeve and thinking like, hey, I wonder if some things are like miss here. Now you see that the hand kind of crept up to the pole, clawed away from the pole a little bit and then decided to grab the pole afterward, right? So that is if I had someone that was trying to swing a 10-foot pole at me, I would probably get my hand on the pole if I had it available to me. So this is like, I want to say the previous one, I'm like 70% sure that was a good shot. I want to say this one, I'm like 30% sure. I'm like, if that had been the only missed shot, that makes sense. Like this one that we just watched, and the hand behavior was weird to me, right? So that's one thing that I would look for as a Reeve, because like if we're gonna play it again, watch his offhand coming back to the pole, how it goes to grab it, release a little bit, then goes to fully grab it. So I want to watch that first. So full speed. Thrust. See that delay in putting that back in his hand? So the way that you could think about this, right, is that may be an indication that he maybe thought that he was not hit, or thought that maybe he was hit but was not sure. So what do you do when that happens to you? Anybody in the chat, if you're not sure that you got hit, what do you do? You can ask the opponent. You can talk to. You can ask the opponent if you're not sure. You can talk to the Reeve if you're not sure, but you don't just quietly put the hand back on the pole if you're not sure, right? I'm not gonna say that like I'm psychic or anything like that. I know that for sure, because I want to say that I was about 30% sure on seeing the arm shot. And I'm only about like 50% sure that that's what that hand motion means. But we'll get to a point in a couple more, right? No, that's a leg. Now we're into suffering. You can see Kenshin wincing, knowing what Rat, a doctor, is knowingly doing to his knees in the name of victory. Body language probably says that, right? He should have just verbalized that. I'm like 40% sure on that hit, but I don't want to back it up anymore. So I want to use all my time on this. So the videos are available. You can watch them in slow-mo if you don't agree or you want to check them out. That's fine. I'm happy to be told if the people read the evidence like a different way. That's fine. Fine is, I don't know. I have knee pads. I still hate putting my knees on the ground.
That's gotta hurt you. I would never not on this.
Now this one, I think that ended as a face. I think that started as an arm. Let's go back. Listen to Kenshin talking in slow-mo. Alright, watch. See if we can zoom in. You see a path, right? His head's bowed down. But the path is like, let me see if I can remember how to hit this button. What's it? Control 2. Okay. Now it's not letting me zoom. I feel like the path it's kind of rising up like that. So I think I'd be like 40% sure that rode up off the arm into the face. And that can be valid. Like, that can be a valid thing that happens where it rides up into your face and you don't know it or you don't feel it yet. But I'm like 40% sure that happened. So, not the end of the world. 40%, right? Not a big deal. So I don't want to spend too much more time on this. Because I want to get into like actual suggestions. But I think you guys are starting to understand like what I'm getting at. That stuff was obscured by the Reeve. Looks like he's like ready to take like a leg on that one short. So the point that I want to make here, right, is like we had one that we were really sure, right, collectively as a chat, and we had multiple where we were maybe like 30 to 40% sure. So I want to highlight like this is the thinking that I think that people get trapped into when they're reaving, as they think that like you have to call it right away and make a decision within a second, and you have to treat each exchange completely impartially, right? But I think that that's a mistake, right? Because I think that like basically, let me see if I can make this make sense. So let's go back here. We got to do a little bit better of a job. Let's snooze this. Ejections, right? So basically, like, we feel like the curve as Reeves, when we're watching this, looks like this. So if we don't catch it like right in the moment and it happens, this should go back down and cool off. But that's not what the fighter experiences, right? What the fighter experiences is continues to rise, right? Like it doesn't just when you have like, okay, we had an 80 that we were sure on, we had a 40 we were sure on, we had a 30 we were sure on, and then some other stuff happened. Like you should call it on this one, right? You should call it on this one if you're sure. If you're not sure, that's okay. Everybody mistakes. But this 40, you don't just look at this 40% sure in isolation away from this 80. Like this stays, right? Like now you're at 120, right? You don't just like view this as a 40. You add this previous situation in and how sure you are. And then you don't just look, well, that was 30% sure, right? You take this 120 and you add this in, and this is 150 now. Because like if the behavior is repeating itself, but it's subtle each time, you don't just like reset the clock on that, right? Like you have to look at it and as together, you have to look at it in full, like as a story that is evolving. You have to look at the pattern. Exactly, right? And I think that like ant garters and reaving get like so obsessed with like with being impartial that we lose like the forest for the trees. And a lot of the time, like your intuition is the thing that is going to tell you like, hey, I really think that this shot hit. But if you're just like unsure every time, if like 5 things happen that are eyebrow raising to you, something is amiss. If one happens, like there were some shots in my pools that we were watching that I thought that people missed, but it was just one. So I didn't worry about it too much. It's not a big deal. But when you have multiple happen in a row, you got to take that all into context. So I don't think that that's necessarily like the fault of the Reeves, but like I think that that's like an ant guard culture thing and a white culture thing where it's like nobody needs to get called out unless it's like the standard for bias and evidence is like super, super high. It's like, no, man, like those acts should be like a little bit more cumulative in your mind, where when you have repeated situations that are unclear, like, hey, this should be clear. Like this shouldn't like, you don't look at like dozens of like, not dozens, but you don't want to look at like 5 questionable situations and say, well, they were all low amount of questionability. So we're going to dismiss all 5 of those questions. You want to look at it as like, why are there 5 questions about this, right? Like if there's 1 question and you're unsure, that makes sense to dismiss that. If there's 5 questions that you're a little bit unsure about, there is probably a problem. So just keep in mind that like those kinds of things over time are cumulative. And also like you don't have to be like instantaneous, right? Yeah, it definitely happens with COC stuff too, where they're like, we have to take every situation and be completely impartial to like that situation. You don't be impartial to situations. You be impartial to people, but those people have ownership of all of those situations sequentially, right? So it's just like I think a flaw in our evidence. So the way that I would like to think of it is like, if you want to make it systematic, keep a 3-point system. If you've got something that's like super obvious, that's 3 points. Call the stop. Call the shot, right? If you see something real questionable, you're like, oh shit, like that's a 2. That's a 2. So that's 2 out of 3 points that are spent. If you see something that's like a little bit questionable after that, like if it's a little bit questionable, not a big deal. But if you see another little bit questionable thing after a big questionable thing happened, that's 3 points now. You're full. You should call it. And you don't have to call things within like seconds, right? Like you can stop the fight at any time. You can back it up. You can ask questions about that stuff. As a Reeve, you can stop the fights anytime. So this is Tato from the future, and I had a suggestion from a friend on how to make this little diatribe a little bit more clear using some probability and statistics. I forgot about this math, so thank you for reminding me of it. What you've got is, so we had, I think our hypothetical was we had 4 situations where we had like a different internal sureness, right? So we had one where we were, I think it was 70% sure. We had a situation where we were, I think we had like a 30%. We had a 50%. I think we had a, like a 60. And then I think we had like a 40. So our big tip off, if you recall, was this 70, right? And we were talking about how to make these cumulative, but there's like an actual mathematical way of making this kind of judgment and being sure by it, right? So what you are actually looking for when you are reaving is like, it's really nice to be able to make the correct call every time. But the main item that we're worried about is, do we have the correct winner? Aside from that, like barring that we can call every single individual shot with 100% certainty, what we want to do is try to at least identify the winner of the match with as much certainty as we probably can, right? So this is our shortness on this bottom line here, is how sure we are on whether or not something hits someone, right? And we have some reasonable doubt here, right? Like 30% is a reasonable amount of doubt. But what we need to look at is not like how sure we are that we're right. It is what we need to look at is the chance that we are wrong across every trial, right? Because whether someone is dead here, if it's the same person, if they're dead here, if they're dead here, it doesn't matter. They lose the match, right? Or at least it matters less than a result where we're getting like something random, right? So what you do is you take the inverse of this. So this is 30, and you multiply it by your chance of being wrong on each of these, right? So this is going to give us the probability of us accidentally identifying the incorrect winner of the fight, right? So this is 60, sorry, not 40. So our chance of identifying the incorrect winner, if we make one call through here, right? In order to identify the incorrect winner, we have to be wrong about every single one of these calls, right? So the way to do this math is you multiply these decimals together. I think the answer is going to surprise you. It's 0.0252, or 2.5% of a chance of saying like, hey, you had the wrong guy winning this fight. 2.5% chance of making a mistake, right? So you're 97.5% sure that you are assigning the loss to the correct person. So I just wanted to add that bit of math to help you understand when you have cumulative, unclear situations like this, making a call against that particular fighter, whether it's here on this last one or here on this last one, you're down to a 2.5% chance of conducting yourself unfairly. So I just wanted to put that math out there. All right, I'll watch this one because I lose this one, and I'm fussy about it. How dare you, Toby, made me lose. Ball alarm is not the best. In fact, it is the actual literal worst. Not gonna lie, I would have thought about stopping a fight more than a few seconds after seeing something. You don't have like a time limit. And you're also allowed to just say stop while you think about something. If you think you saw something suspicious, like don't let it go and hope that your mind is going to process it in the background and give you an answer. Stop. Say, hold on a second. Think about it. If you decide it's not worth adjudicating, just say, okay, I just wanted to think that over. Go ahead and lay on. You can also like back fights up as much as you want. Like you're allowed to back them up and say, okay, you're gonna like reset with an arm or a leg or something like that. So it's just things to think about. I think people put like an unfair, like we have to be honest with ourselves and understand that like most of our Rees are volunteers, and many of those volunteers are like newer or don't have a lot of fighting experience. They're not going to see everything, but there's techniques that we can use to help us figure out like what's going on. So we just need to, that's part of why I'm streaming. I just want to make those techniques known so that people don't have to like look at these kinds of things and not know what to do about it. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's see me get my fucking ass kicked by Toby with his dining room table. So my thought process here, and I didn't stick to this, but my thought process here is I want to fight sword foot forward because I don't want to get close to this flail. I got to stay away from him. That doesn't stop me from getting close because when I smell blood, I want to jump on that shit. So you can see me trying, and then I'm like, oh, actually, I suck at sword foot forward, and Toby knows I can just money shot you if you're sword foot forward. So I think that talks me out of it a little bit. But I think most of that was like I was standing too close. I was not circling. Like I was tired, but also like don't get tired if you want to win tournaments. I didn't know what to tell you, Tates. So I think I abandoned. Giant room table needs more GDGs on it. I think I abandoned the sword foot forward approach because the footwork wasn't working for me. I hate this because that was the North Star 100 whack fist, which never fails me. And Toby's like, yeah, that's a really cool shot. I'm going to hit you in the fucking butt while you start doing that. So I get like a really cool 3-part shot, and he's like, nope, bonked your butt. So you got me in the butt. Yeah, I don't know what to do against this. So I try to juke. Alright, got a counter in. We had a simultaneous kill there. Got the inside of my forearm. So what I needed to do there, I had the advantage and I didn't capitalize on it. Let's go back. This is not helpful. I got us to this position, and then like, okay, I'm just gonna do something that I worked on in fighter practice, which is step this way and swing, that he just threw at the same time. I needed to stutter, fake him out, get him to miss, and then throw. You just walk in there and do that. Work on that ball arm. He only has one shot to your million. Woof. I need to like stay outside and circle and just do anything. But I think my legs and endurance were like ruined for the day. So this was for first and second. So I think I got the spacing on that correct that time. I just managed to catch the ball. And once I caught that ball, I'm like, I need to swing and swing and swing and swing and swing. Why did that work for me? Let's look at that a little more closely. So I had like a... I think that was just like a random success. I only brought the tower shield to use against great weapons in open, but since I wasn't going to win, I just wanted to mess around. Yeah, mess around with my score, Toby. Thanks for that one, bud. Appreciate that one, bud. Your setup is best with swinging into... You sucks to do. Yeah, it's a good setup. I think when the break happened from sword board to pole, you weren't sure if you were doing open or not. Your body cooled down, the adrenaline also went down. Maybe. I felt like I got like a really good break and I kept myself moving, but I probably had less like generalized gas and stuff. It could be bigger. So I think that we were both kind of just sagging there, and I just threw and happened to win on that one. I don't think I was doing anything complicated. You know, there's a quick foot switch there. I think it was unconscious. That may have helped, right? Maybe that's something to play with. You got me. So that's that. All right, we back. This is the boy. He's sleepy. He does not like main time. He's not wild about it. Look at that tongue. Oh, the length on that thing. It's like a 10-foot pole, man. So all I've got left for you guys is like if you've got questions or topics that you want to talk about regarding the stream, like open question time. We're going to admire this puppy's sumptuous fluff. And if you got anything, like questions about reading, questions about any of the fighting advice, go ahead and hit me up with it. So what do you think we could do as a kingdom to help incentivize people to get better at reaving? Incentivize is a tough word. Like what we used to do, one thing that I want to bring back and have talked to a few people and laid a little bit of like back end work for is we used to do fight cards where we basically like we were just trying to make everybody meet everybody else and practice with everyone else. So it was like a meet and greet where you had a scavenger hunt for like different people to fight. And if you completed your scavenger hunt, you got entered basically a raffle ticket to win swag from a foam smithing shop, right? So I think if we had like the fighters donate for prizes and have participation of Reeves as entrance into said raffle, I think that that's the best way to incentivize it that I could think of. Like, I understand why people don't want to Reeve. Like, it is high pressure. I think that Reeving is easier for me because, like, I have a lot of fighting experience, but, like, not everybody has that, right? So I'm, like, stepping into my comfort zone because of that skill, and then people are, like, stepping further out of their comfort zone. I think also building a culture where it's, like, sometimes Reeves make wrong calls, and that's okay, and we're glad that they're volunteering to help us out. It's, like, the best call. Someone once suggested telling the players fighting in the tournaments to ask their training partners who weren't competing to come Reeve. I'm interested in hearing opinions on that. I mean, I think that the organization is so small that like that's a good deal. I Reeve like 5 of the last tournament, so I would like to Reeve. I would understand like you don't want to hold your training partner down if you're both trying to succeed. I think like people worry about like favoritism a lot of the time, right? Like, well, if my training buddy is gonna call, if Tato's training buddy is gonna Reeve his match, like he's gonna call it in Tato's favor, so that he doesn't like sour that relationship. I think that like the people who are serious about fighting like will not do that for each other and have like good enough rapport that it's okay to do that. I think that like that's one of those scenarios that culturally Amtgard worries a lot about, like favoritism and bias, and they're so like afraid of those situations that they won't do like we search for the perfect solution to things so much that we miss good enough by like fucking miles and don't even try. 2 pits, put them in the other pit. You can do that. You can recuse yourself. Like if I've got like trainees, I don't want to Reeve for them until after I feel like they've graduated, unless there's like no other option. But I think I'm more capable than most people of like being impartial because I genuinely care about the end result here of like having good fighting, and there is like a factual basis for fighting. So I want to do that. I want it to be real, right? I want it to be a real sport. I don't like the made up WWE shit. It upsets me. But yeah, I think like if you got a buddy and you want to make a deal, like it's also like a good point that like Dallas was not happy to fight me in pools because we fight each other all the damn time, right? So it makes sense that like I would take a tournament off to Reeve while Dallas is going to compete. I think that that's like a totally sensible way to organize things. And you end up with a better tournament for your training partner too, right? That's going to help their motivation in the long run. So I think that's my answer on that. You guys got any other questions or anything else you want me to go over? So my dog is just done. He's done being held. Give it a minute. I love lo-fi, man. It's relaxing. I find that streaming is really difficult without something for me to listen to because it's like having my own voice drone on and on and on for like 3 or 4 hours with no other sound. It's like I get bored, but the lo-fi really helps. Really helps. So, all right. If there's no other questions, I'm beat. I'm gonna call it. So thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. Just helping me out with this hobby, let me talk about something I love. Thanks to all of the participants in the tournaments, all of the Reeves. It was a really great, like, almost a welcome home. It was really great to see everybody. So I will catch you guys in the next one, and we'll see you guys around.